So, the 2025 NASCAR Cup Series playoffs are finally here. We have gone from 36 drivers down to 16, and over the course of the next 10 races, we'll go down from 16 to 12, 12 to 8, 8 to 4, until we finally have our 2025 NASCAR Cup Series champion. And while the playoff format is controversial, to say the least, one of my favorite parts about this format is the ability to discuss who's going to make it out of each round. Who will make it to the round of 12 or the round of 8? Will Joey Logano make back-to-back Final Fours for the first time in his career? These are discussions that we get to have because of these formats, and that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to have maybe not a discussion, but a prediction. Predicting how these playoffs are going to go. Predicting who's going to make it out of each round, and finally predicting who is going to be your 2025 NASCAR Cup Series champion. But first, I want to talk to you guys about NASCAR Pole Position Magazine, the officially licensed NASCAR magazine and the perfect collectible for any racing fan. The August-September edition has everything, like NASCAR rivalries like Denny Hamlin versus Carson Hocevar, or Daniel Dye versus Austin Hill, or a Q&A done by yours truly with rising star Thomas Annunziata. Kyle Larson, Justin Allgaier, and Caden Honeycutt all make the cover, and again, it is just a great collectible to have for any NASCAR fan. We even have bundles out there for the super fans, like the Diamond Bundle, where not only do you get a year subscription of NASCAR Pole Position Magazine, but also the 75th Anniversary Magazine as well. And we have two other bundles as well, like the Driver Bundle, where instead of a 75th Anniversary Magazine, you get the 75 Greatest Drivers Magazine. And if you're in the mood for a diecast, we have the Diecast Bundle, where you get an Out of the Groove 1/64 scale diecast, along with your yearly subscription of NASCAR Pole Position Magazine. Click the link in the description below to subscribe to NASCAR Pole Position Magazine and get yourself a bundle as well while you're at it. Again, NASCAR Pole Position Magazine, the officially licensed NASCAR magazine. So, how exactly are we going to predict each round? Because while it's easy to say that it's an odd year, so Logano isn't going to make the Final Four, or it's easy to say that because Byron was the regular season champion, he's basically a lock to make the Final Four, we need something a little more tangible to hold on to. We need stats, we need numbers, we need something that we can back our claims with, so we're not just doing hearsay in terms of making our predictions. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do three things during these predictions. The first is I'm going to go through each round, and the last time these drivers race at the tracks in each round, I'm going to pull their last finish. The second thing that I'm going to do is, at least for the round of 16 and the round of 12, I'm going to use the last 5 races in terms of finishes for each driver, because momentum is something that is very important in motorsports. If you're on a down streak, chances are either you're going to slowly creep back up or you're going to continue to go down. Case in point, if you're on a hot streak, you're probably on the way back up, or you're going to start teetering off just a little bit. The reason I'm not going to do that for the round of 8 and the Final Four is because we're going to be so deep into the playoffs at that point that I don't think that it would be wise to pull back from the last 5 races when they were, races 21 through 26, when we're on like race 33, 34, 35, 36. You get my point. I'm going to use advantages and disadvantages for who I have making the Final 8 and the Final 4 as to why I think they'll make it or they won't. It may sound a little bit confusing, but once we actually get into the meat and potatoes, it'll all clear up. So without any further ado, let's actually go through the 16 drivers that are competing for the championship before I start making my predictions. Kyle Larson, William Byron, Denny Hamlin, Ryan Blaney, Christopher Bell, Shane Van Gisbergen, we're going to use SVG, Chase Elliott, Chase Briscoe, Bubba Wallace, Austin Cindric, Ross Chastain, Joey Logano, Josh Berry, Tyler Reddick, Austin Dillon, and Alex Bowman are your 16 playoff drivers. With all that being said, let's finally see who I have moving on to the round of 12. So the round of 16, we have Darlington, Gateway, and Bristol. I'm going to split this up into 2 categories. My guarantees, the guys who I feel very confident are going to move on to the next round, and then the guys who we're probably going to have to do a little bit of explaining and a little bit of convincing as to why I have them either eliminated or moving on. And while I do that, I'll have the stats on the screen for, what I mentioned before, their last finishes in the last 5 races. The guys who I have guaranteed, at least in my opinion, to make it out of the round of 16 are Kyle Larson, William Byron, Denny Hamlin, Ryan Blaney, Christopher Bell, Chase Elliott, Chase Briscoe, and Bubba Wallace. Yes, I think Bubba Wallace is a guarantee to make it to the round of 12. I like the momentum he has. They're on a little bit of a hot streak. They could have won Richmond. I know woulda, coulda, shoulda, but they have speed. Something that I can't say for a lot of the guys that I left off on this list. So those are my guarantees to make it out of the round of 16. Now let's move on to the rest of the drivers because I left off a good chunk of names. And we'll start off with Austin Cindric. Austin Cindric, driver of the 2, of course he won at Talladega earlier this year. And at the beginning of the season, it looked like that 2 car was finally starting to figure things out. Running top 15 more, running top 10 more, leading a few more laps. It looked like Cindric was due for a breakout year. The problem is, Cindric kind of, after that Talladega win, kind of reverted back to the means. He was really nowhere. He flirted around 25th to 15th in points pretty much the entire summer and up until now. He wasn't really leading laps besides Indianapolis before he cut that tire. So the 2 car kind of was on a trajectory and then fell down again. We'll see if he can make his way through the field again. Gateway's in this round. He won the race last year. Darlington and Bristol, are okay tracks for him, but the 2 car is the first driver that I have that's not a guarantee. Another driver I don't think is a guarantee is your defending champ, Joey Logano. Logano is a weird driver. I think the best way to describe Logano is, this is no disrespect by the way, he's like a great value version of Jimmy Johnson back in the 2000s where, they kind of got a win. They did what they needed to do just to lock themselves in or virtually lock themselves into the playoffs. And then kind of during the summer and, as we head towards the end of the regular season, they really just fall off and they're nowhere. And then come playoff time, that 22 team, or back in the day, the 48 team, really turn it on and turn the Jets up. And then they're in the championship discussion. Jimmy won 5 titles doing it that way. Well, obviously 2013 and 2016 as well, but really that 5-year stretch. And Joey Logano, ever since 2018, he's won 3 titles in that span. They've kind of done the same thing too, and last year was a great example of that. The problem with Logano is that kind of strategy, you just don't know what kind of Logano you're going to get. Kind of how we say Kyle Larson is checkers or wreckers. Logano is kind of the same way, but in terms of playoff performances. He's either making the Final Four and competing for the title, if not winning it, or he's getting eliminated in the early rounds. I mean, guys, in 2023, in a title-defending year, Joey was eliminated in the round of 16, the first time a defending champion was ever eliminated in the opening round. And I could easily see that happening again. I mean, guys, would you really be shocked if Joey Logano missed the first round this year? Honestly, I can't say that I would be that surprised. And if you look at his stats overall, I feel like it's easier to talk yourself into Logano being eliminated rather than him advancing pretty deep. Because when you think of Joey Logano, you think of the round of 8, you think of the championship 4, you think of hoisting the championship. But this year, I just can't see that. But then again, we said that last year and he ended up winning it all. So I could be wrong, but I don't think Logano is a guarantee. As I don't think his pseudo teammate, Josh Berry, is a guarantee. Kind of like Cindric, the beginning of the year was very promising for Josh Berry. Won at Las Vegas, was running up front, leading laps, looked like that 21, made the right decision to kick Burton to the curb, Harrison Burton to the curb, and bring in Josh Berry because it looked like the 21 was rejuvenated. But really, ever since kind of the end of the spring, the start of the summer, and up until now, that 21 has been nowhere. They've really reverted back to the means of what they were from last year, which is running 20th, 25th, not a lot of great runs, the odd top 10, top 5 here and there. So that 21 car hasn't really been that great overall this year. They've been getting a little bit better. They have a couple top 10s in the last 5 races. These few tracks, they could bode well for them, but 2 DNFs in 2 to 3 races the last time we've been to these tracks, at least in the round of 16, isn't great for Josh Berry, and that's why I just can't wholeheartedly say he is a guarantee. I think most people have him eliminated in this round. I haven't touched on him yet, but I'll just go ahead and do it right now. Shane Van Gisbergen. This is a weird driver to predict because he's got a lot of playoff points from all the road courses he won. But because this round is predominantly ovals and 3 very tricky ovals, as a matter of fact, I know he's got a 16-point cushion, which is 6 right now on the playoff grid, but 16 points, you can easily lose that in one race. If he runs bad at Darlington, that 16-point cushion is gone and he could be in the red instead of the green. SVG has been getting better at ovals. We need to acknowledge that. We can't act like Shane Van Gisbergen is the same SVG he was at the beginning of the year because that's just wrong. Look at his last few finishes. A lot of top 20s, a lot of top 15s. I know Daytona is a super speedway and all of that, but he led laps in an oval. That does have to be acknowledged, even though there is no super speedways in this round. Leading laps in an oval still needs to be acknowledged. He's got a big cushion. He's been getting better. And guys, 2 out of these 3 tracks, he's going for the second time this year. So he's going to know how to get around these a lot better than he would have at the beginning of the season. So that does have to take into account. It's really going to come down to SVG's adaptability and whether or not he can figure out gateways quicker, which he went to Richmond for the first time a few weeks ago and he was running top 15 all day long. So that is notable. Keep an eye out on gateway for a decent run possibly for the 88 car. Now, as for the former driver of the 88 car, albeit with Hendrick Motorsports, Alex Bowman. Alex Bowman maybe should be a guarantee because he is a Hendrick car to make it out of the round of 12. He's been running really consistent, but not a lot of winning speed. Not really, I don't think any playoff points to his name. Maybe a stage win or 2. But other than that, that 48 car they've been good. Not great. They've been good. So out of the drivers that I mentioned that aren't guaranteed, I'm probably the most confident in Bowman to advancing into the round of 12 over everyone else that I mentioned. Ross Chastain is a weird case because at the beginning of the year, he was the closer. He was running up front. He would, kind of work his way through the field. He started last in the Coke 600 and then worked his way up and ended up winning that race. The problem with Chastain is these last 5 races have not really been great to him. Not a lot of top 10s, a lot of finishes outside the top 10, top 15. And when you're in the round of 16 and everyone is as close as they've been, you need to start to separate yourself from the rest of the pack. And I don't think Chastain has done that. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Chastain eliminated this round. Austin Dillon, Richmond was a feel-good story. He led a lot of laps in that race, but he has not really been great all season long. While he has been getting a little bit better, I need to see more out of that 3 car before I could say that he's a guarantee to make it out of the round of 16. And the final driver that I want to touch on is Tyler Reddick. Reddick should be in all cases a guarantee to make it to the round of 12. He made the Final 4 last year. He's in the 2311 car, so why don't I have him as a guarantee? The problem with Reddick is he's just been inconsistent, especially these last 5 races. And on top of that, he didn't have a great playoffs last year as the regular season champ. Yeah, he won at Homestead, but other than that, that 45 car was very hit or miss. I think they only had, 2 top 10s that year during the playoffs. So that 45 car, when it comes playoff time, they're very hit or miss. Yeah, they made the Final 4, but they are nowhere near the levels they were in 2024 than they are now. So I don't think Reddick is a guarantee to make it to the round of 12 this year, but that's just my opinion. So with all that explanation being said, the 12 drivers I have moving on are Alex Bowman, Ross Chastain, Shane Van Gisbergen, and Tyler Reddick. I think those 4 are going to move on to the round of 12, and my drivers eliminated are Austin Cindric, Joey Logano, Josh Berry, and Austin Dillon. Yes, I think Joey Logano misses the round of 16 as a defending champ. We've seen it before. I need to see I know he can flip a switch, but I need to see just a little bit of something. It is an odd year, so of course he's probably not going to make the Final 4 just because coincidence at this point, but I'm having the 22 eliminated along with his teammate Cindric, his pseudo-teammate Josh Berry, and of course the RCR lone challenger of Austin Dillon. So the round of 12 has Loudon, Kansas, and the Charlotte Roval. And like I did with the round of 16, I'll first give off my guarantees, and then I'll go over the drivers who I don't think are guaranteed to make it to the next round. So my guarantees to make it to the round of 8 are Kyle Larson, William Byron, Denny Hamlin, Ryan Blaney, Christopher Bell, Chase Elliott, and Chase Briscoe. I think Chase Briscoe, he's been really good this year, especially after he got that win at Pocono. He's been on a really good hot streak. I think he'll do enough to make it to the round of 8, which he's done before with Stewart-Haas back in 2022. So the drivers who I don't have as guarantees, we'll start off with Bubba Wallace. Bubba Wallace, he's never made it out of the round of 12 before. His lone playoff appearance, he made it to the round of 12, then he got bounced in that round, though he was teetering with a round of 8 appearance. Of course, I believe it was Texas that was in that round, and he nearly won that race before losing it to William Byron. And Bubba, he has been on a decent hot streak so far. Ever since he won Indianapolis, he probably should have won Richmond if not for the tire debacle. Was leading laps at Daytona, and he's been running better at road courses. You could see some of the stats here at road courses in the next gen era. I'll put them up really quick. He's been encouraging, but he's never made it out of this round. This 23 team still feels very raw. I don't know if they're ready to be in that Elite 8 just yet, but you'll see who I have making it to join my guarantees. We'll see who I have making it, and maybe that 23 will make the cut. Alex Bowman. Bowman would have made the round of 8 last year if he didn't get DQ'd at the Charlotte Roval because of, 15 or 16 pounds taken off the car. If it wasn't for that, Bowman would have been in the round of 8 last year, and there's a chance he could do it again. Again, very consistent, has been getting a little bit better these last few races after a dismal summer slump to start off the summer. But again, not a lot of playoff points. The field is cutting down just a little bit, and I just don't know if that 48 is going to have enough to really push it in to guarantee a spot in the round of 8. As is Ross Chastain. The tracks, they're good for Chastain. He's won at Kansas before. He won there last year in the playoffs, even though he wasn't a playoff driver at that time. He's a good road course racer. Of course, he won his first career race at a road course in Coda. And Loudon, he's not bad. But again, the problem with Chastain is he's very inconsistent, and I just don't know what kind of one car am I going to get. I don't think I'm going to get a one car that's going to dominate the race, but am I going to get a one car that runs 18th all week, or am I going to get a one car that starts in the back and ends up finishing top 10 or top 5? I just don't know. So because of that, I can't say that's a guarantee for him to move on. And SVG. With a road course in the Roval in this round, you should think that SVG is a guarantee. The reason I don't have SVG as a guarantee is because while there is a road course in this round, there was also a road course in the Xfinity Series playoffs last year, which he made, and he still got eliminated in that round. So why is that? I think it's because come playoff time, there's just a different atmosphere. They always say that postseason is different from regular season in terms of pressure, and when it comes to the playoffs, especially in NASCAR, you'll see that a lot of these guys will do whatever it takes to advance to the next round. Just look at Reddick last year. Just look at the wall ride in 2022 as a couple of examples. So while SVG is easily the best road course racer possibly in NASCAR history, you're going to see a lot of these guys really kick it up another notch. And I think that's when we're really going to see, can that 88 team mount to the playoff pressure, even though they do have a road course in this round. Then we have Tyler Reddick. Very inconsistent this year. They're just not the same team than they were last year. Of course, winless so far. Could they win a race in these playoffs? Yes, they can. There's a lot of great tracks for him. Darlington has won back in the round of 16. He won at Kansas before, and he is a good road course racer himself. But again, I need to see more out of that 45 camp. So, who do I have joining my guarantees in the round of 8? I'll just read off my round of 8 guarantees again. Kyle Larson, William Byron, Denny Hamlin, Ryan Blaney, Christopher Bell, Chase Elliott, Chase Briscoe, and who I have joining them is Bubba Wallace. I like the momentum that 23 has right now. I think Bubba, because he won the Brickyard 400, he's in a good mind space. He doesn't have as much pressure as he would in the past. And we've seen when Bubba Wallace is kind of relaxed and he doesn't have the weight of the world on his shoulders, he tends to run better. So I think that 23 team, they have a little bit of juice in them. They've been running well these last 5 races. I think he's going to advance. And my 4 drivers being eliminated are Alex Bowman, Ross Chastain, SVG, and Tyler Reddick. Yes, I have Bubba Wallace making it over Tyler Reddick, even though we should all agree that Reddick is the better driver out of the 2. And I do have SVG missing this round, even though there is a road course. Again, I don't know if that 88 is ready for that playoff pressure, even though they are easily the best at that type of racing. So we have 8 drivers. but we got to bring it down to 4. And like I mentioned before, we are not going to include their last 5 finishes because at this point in the season, it is so deep that I don't think they'd really matter. I don't think we can really correlate them in terms of momentum. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over advantages and disadvantages for each driver. And we'll start off with Kyle Larson. Obviously, we'll put up the last 3 finishes at these tracks, but Kyle Larson, what is his advantage? It's Kyle Larson. He's probably the only driver in the field, with this next-gen car, with this spec car, that can just go out there and wax the field like it's none of his business. I mean, just look at Kansas, look at Bristol, and while he didn't dominate Homestead, he just drove up there and he just took it. So that is Larson's advantage. It's just, he has that raw ability to get, it's just Kyle Larson. As a Larson fan, I like that about Kyle Larson. I like when he does that. But Kyle Larson's disadvantage, he's very inconsistent. We know with Larson, it's either feast or famine, checkers or records. He can very easily crash out by spending himself out from pushing it too hard, as he would just go out and leading all but 5 laps in a race. And with that very Jekyll and Hyde type of style that Larson has, it's very hard to predict if Larson can make the Final 4, which is something he's only done twice in his career, 2021 and 2023. Even in his Hendrick tenure, he's only made it twice. Will he make it a 3rd time? We'll find out in my predictions. Next up is William Byron. Byron is kind of like Larson, but not so much to the extent in terms of an advantage. Is he's always going to run up front, and he's more than likely going to lead a lot of laps. And, this is a guy who's made back-to-back Final Fours, 2023 and 2024, so he's got a lot of experience as to how to get to the final round and what it takes to get there. My problem with William Byron is just a lot of times when it comes to making the Final 4, especially in 2023 and 2024, he's right on that cusp, especially last year where the main reason he made it is because NASCAR penalized Christopher Bell for an alleged wall ride. If he didn't get that penalty, then Byron would have been out and Bell would have been in. So Byron, he's made the Final 4 the last 2 years, but in those 2 years, he really has to just kind of sneak his way in there. There's never been he's never won a race to lock himself into the Final 4. And he's always getting in by just a couple of points. So because of that just volatile nature of that cut line, that is my disadvantage for William Byron. Denny Hamlin is next up on this list, and Denny Hamlin's advantage is his experience. He's the oldest guy in the field. He's the oldest driver in these playoffs, and Denny just ages like a fine wine. Tied for the most wins this year along with SVG. He's been running up front a lot, and while he's not really dominating races, he's doing what he needs to do, using that experience to his advantage, managing the tires, working his way through the field methodically. And at the end of the day, you're like, where did that 11 car come from? And they're ending up winning more times than not. My problem with Denny Hamlin is in the next gen era, he has been shut out of the Final 4 in every single year. He's made the round of 8 every year, but 0 for 3 in the next gen era in making the Final 4. 2022 was the wall ride. I don't remember if he was really that much of a factor in 23 and 24 when he said it was his year, which he's pretty much said that for the last 2 or 3 years. But anyway, his last Final 4 appearance was back in 2021. So it's been a while since we've seen that 11 car in the Final 4. So his disadvantage, at least for the next gen era, Denny, I need to see you make it to actually believe it. Next up is Chase Elliott. I think we all know what Chase Elliott's advantage is, and that is his consistency. He's always running top 10, top 15, top 20. He's never a guy that's really running outside the top 25 or outside the top 20. He's always in the mix, which is important for stage points, good finishes, and collecting what you need to make it to the Final 4. Because, guys, one driver is always guaranteed to make the Final 4 on points. And of anyone here on this list, I trust Chase Elliott to do it the most. That consistency in this final round is really, really important. Now, what is his disadvantage? He just doesn't have the winning speed. He's got 1 win this year in Atlanta, and while he had a nice streak of a couple top 5s, he's kind of gone back to what Chase Elliott has been really since he got back from injury, which is a top 10, top 15 driver, but never really a top 5 guy. Yeah, he finishes top 5 in the points standings, but do you really believe that Chase Elliott is a top 5 contender week in and week out nowadays? At least for me, not really. He hasn't won multiple races since 2022 when the next gen started. He's only won 1 race, if not none, in the 3 years since. So until I see a little more speed out of that 9 car, that's always going to be his disadvantage. Next up is Chase Briscoe. He's made the round of 8 before. He made it back in 2022 with Stewart-Haas Racing. And he almost made the Final Four that year as well when he was leading late in Martinsville. Chase Briscoe is someone who knows what it takes to kind of battle in that round of 8 cut line. And his advantage is that 19 car has been slowly turning it on as of late. We know the poles he's gotten this year. He's basically the new Rocket Man. Ryan Newman, don't file the trademark, or maybe you did already, but he's basically the new Rocket Man at this point. He knows how to get up front early for early stage points, which again, one driver is guaranteed to make it on points. That is going to be very important. My problem with Briscoe is he's still relatively new, and it's still the 19 car, and it's still James Small. While James Small has made the Final Four a few times, he is still a crew chief where, would you be surprised if he got fired this year? I wouldn't be surprised. I'm surprised he's still there. I just don't know if James Small has it to really do it. He's never made the Final Four in the next gen era. He's only had 2 winning seasons in the next gen era. So I just don't know if that team is ready to make a Final Four push. Then we got Ryan Blaney. What is Blaney's advantage? Martinsville. He's won the penultimate race at Martinsville back-to-back years. Of course, he won the title in 2023, and he almost won it last year in Phoenix. So Blaney, Martinsville, as long as it's in this round, is always going to be a pencil mark, as is Talladega. Of course, he just won at Daytona a few days ago. I'm recording this on a Thursday. So Ryan Blaney, these are a great set of tracks for Blaney to make it to another Final Four. Problem with Blaney is reliability. He's got 7 DNFs this year? And yes, he did still finish second in the overall standings, but when you're constantly having to worry about reliability, is the engine going to hold up? Are you going to have a mistake? Are you going to get caught up in someone's mess? Are you going to be a crash magnet because of that? And again, that volatile season that Blaney's been having, I can't confidently say that Blaney isn't going to run into trouble at some point. Christopher Bell is my next driver. What is Bell's advantage? Well, this season, he has shown, at least early on, that he could just click off a win like that. Of course, he won 3 in a row to start off the year. And Bell, he's in a JGR car. He's a very clutch driver. Just look at 2022 and 2023. Would have made it last year again if he didn't get penalized. So Bell is someone that when the pressure is on, he rises to the occasion more times than not. The problem with Bell is he really hasn't been anywhere ever since those 3 in a row. Yeah, he won the All-Star race and he ran well at Dover, but if we look at the laps led in terms of all 16 drivers, Bell is pretty low on the list. So why I bring up laps led is it shows an ability to actually run up front and control the race. And this season, Bell hasn't really done that. Again, he's won 3 in a row, but that was at the beginning of the season. He hasn't won since. I need to see a spark from that 20 team. I know they can do it, but I need to see it. And then finally, Bubba Wallace. His advantage, Las Vegas is 1.5 miles. He's run pretty well there. Talladega, he's won there in the past. He's a great super speedway racer. And Martinsville, kind of 50-50 as to whether Bubba Wallace, he can either run really well or he can run really bad. But Vegas and Dega are great tracks for him. My con with Bubba Wallace is, again, I don't think he's a championship 4 driver. I mean, this is a guy who has made the playoffs only twice in his career. Yes, he's only really been in competitive equipment since really 2021, 2022, but he's only made the playoffs twice in his career. One of them was due to the fact that Chase Elliott missed time due to injury and suspension. So this is really his first true playoff appearance. I'll use quotations in that sense, true playoff appearance, but I just don't think he's ready to make a Final Four push, which that kind of gives away Bubba Wallace being eliminated in the round of 8, as I have eliminated as well Christopher Bell, Chase Briscoe, and Kyle Larson. So I got Larson eliminated because he's just been on a slump, to say the least. He's still been running top 10, top 5, been competing for wins, almost won the Brickyard that Bubba Wallace ended up winning. But when you're in the round of 8, and it really comes down into crunch time, you can't really have these slumps. And Larson, as weird as it's to say, he hasn't really shown that he's going to get out of the slump anytime soon. I know we can go back on history and say, oh, he did this, he did that. But guys, he missed the round of 4 last year because he's Kyle Larson. He's feast or famine. And in the round of 8, he was famine last year. And I think it's going to be the same thing again. So I have Larson eliminated along with Bubba Wallace. Chase Briscoe, it makes sense. I don't think he's a Final Four guy just yet. I think that 19 team is a year or two away, and I still don't necessarily trust James Small. And I had Christopher Bell eliminated as well because, again, I've just seen more out of the 4 drivers that I have making it at this point that can make me confidently believe that they would make it to the final round, while Christopher Bell, again, in my opinion, has kind of been lagging behind as of late. So my final 4 are Denny Hamlin, Chase Elliott, Ryan Blaney, and William Byron. So who do I have making it out of those 4 to the championship? Who is going to be the champion out of those 4? I'll just give it away right now. I think it's going to be Blaney. And I don't have a elaborate explanation because it's kind of hard to do that when you have a one race, like anything can happen. One of these guys could blow a tire, blow an engine, or another guy could just go out and dominate the race and then they just fail tech, even though I highly doubt NASCAR would ever fail tech for a championship car. But anyway, why I have Blaney winning it all is it's Phoenix. Let's be honest, guys. If a Penske car is going to make the Final Four, they're going to win the championship. They've won the last 3 in a row for that. And no one's really touched them is the crazy part. I know Ross Chastain won at Phoenix in 2023, but Blaney still finished second. Logano and Blaney finished 1-2 in 2022 and 2024. It really comes down to, I need to see someone actually beat one of these Penske cars in order for me to actually believe they could take the title away from a Penske car. I think the best one to do that is Hamlin. I don't think the Hendrick cars are that great at Phoenix. Yes, Byron's won here in the next gen era, but especially when it comes to Final Four time, that 24 is really nowhere. Chase, again, consistency doesn't matter here. You need race winning pace, and that 9 car doesn't have it. And while I think the 11 car has the best shot, again, asking them to beat a Penske car in the final round at Phoenix is easier said than done. So, with all of that being said, my 2025 NASCAR Cup Series champion is Ryan Blaney. I think he'll hoist the Bill France Cup for the 2nd time in his career, and it'll be 4 titles in a row for the captain, Roger Penske. Whew, this is going to be a long video when I go back and edit this, but there we go, guys. We have whittled it down from 16 to 12, from 12 to 8, and from 8 to 4, and we have our 2025 Cup Series champion. Will I get any of these right? Again, probably not. Knowing my luck, Blaney's going to get eliminated in the round of 16, and then Denny Hamlin will finally win his first title. What are your predictions for the 2025 NASCAR Cup Series playoffs? Let me know in the comments section below. While you're at it, guys, please like this video and subscribe to the Daily Downforce YouTube channel. That would help me out a ton. Check out dailydownforce.com for all sorts of great content over there. But that's going to do it for me, guys. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I appreciate each and every one of you, and we will see you in the next video.